Welcome everyone! Today we'll learn how to apply lazy loading in Angular. So go to VS Code and create a new Angular application. Open a new terminal and type ngN. Define the application's name. We will inline styles, skip test and select the defaults for simplicity. Execute the command. Open the containing folder. Lazy loading is a strategy in Angular that loads components or modules only when requested. Previously, lazy loading relied on NgModules using load children in your module root. So open a new terminal, navigate to the add folder, and we'll create a new module called product list, and we'll add a component to this module with the same name. And we'll define a parameter to specify that this component is not a standalone. Execute the commands, navigate to the module, and we'll add a new child root to render the product list component. So go to the import section and specify router module for child, and we'll add a default root to render the product list component in this module. Save it. Now go to the roots file and we'll define the root for this NgModule. Define the path as product and we'll use the load children operation to lazy load this module. So we'll import the corresponding file and select the module. Save it. Go to the main HTML file and we'll remove the sample Angular code. We'll just keep the router outlet directive to dynamically load a component based on the current root. Save it, go back, open a second terminal and serve the application by typing ngs. Execute the command. As you see in the output console, lazy loaded code is split into separate JavaScript files. We have the main bundle and the lazy chunk file. It reduces the initial bundle size, which results in a faster initial load time. Open the application URL, open the DevTools console and go to the Network tab, reload the Angular application, and you will see the main bundle is downloaded. Now navigate to the module root, which is product, and you will see the product list component is rendered and the corresponding lazy loaded module is downloaded, which corresponds to this chunk file. You can see or you can verify based on the code. So we're lazy loading the lazy chunk file. Hide the terminal. Angular version 14 introduces standalone components that can be lazy loaded without requiring NgModules. So open a new terminal and we'll generate a new component. Clear this console and we'll generate a new component called shopping cart. By default, the component generated will be standalone. So let's define the name of this component. Execute the command, navigate to the roots file and add a second root, define the path, and we'll use the load component operation to lazy load a standalone component. We'll import the corresponding file and select the standalone component. Let's save it. Open the first terminal. Let's stop the application and run again the ng command to see the output lazy chunk files. And now we have two lazy chunk files. The first one is to lazy load a module and the second one is to lazy load a standalone component. So navigate to the application URL, clear these slots and we'll navigate to the default application URL. The main bundle is loaded and now navigate to the cart root to lazy load the standalone component. The shopping cart component is rendered and you will see this bundle, which is associated with the standalone component, is downloaded. Let's confirm based on the code. Go back to Visual Studio and as you will see, we have the same lazy chunk file. that corresponds to the shopping cart component. So we successfully lazy load a standalone component. We can lazy load multiple routes at once without creating a module to declare child routes. Every child route loads a standalone component. So open the terminal and generate 3 components. We'll create an account component and 2 child components, register and login component, which we'll define as child routes. So let's generate a component called account and a component called login, and finally we'll create a component called register. Execute these 3 commands at once, and we'll also create a file to specify the child routes for the account component. So clear the console and type ngg. We'll generate a class called account routes. Execute the command. Navigate to this file and create a new constant called account routes of type root. We'll create a new array. Let's import this class and we'll specify the child routes. Define the path for the first child route and we'll render the login component and add the second route for the register component. Now go to the routes file and we'll create a new route with the account path. By default, we'll render the account component and we'll use the load children operation to configure the child routes. So we'll import the child routes from the previous file created. So call the import and select the account routes. Finally, go to the account HTML and we'll add a route outlet directive to dynamically load a child route based on the current route. Add this directive. We need to import this route outlet directive in the imports array. Let's save it, go back to the routes file, save it, and go to the first terminal. We'll stop the application, clear the console and save again. Now we have a new lazy chunk file which corresponds to the account routes. We will load many routes at once based on this lazy chunk file. Go to the application URL, clear these slots and go back to the initial application URL. The main bundle is loaded. Now navigate to the account route. As you will see, the account component is rendered and the lazy loaded chunk file is downloaded. So we're loading many routes at once based on this chunk file. So you can navigate to a child route called login, which is the first one, and we have the same chunk file. And you will see the child component is rendered successfully. And go to the second child route. We render the child route and we're using the same bundle. Go back, hide the terminal. You can also lazy load every child's standalone component on demand. So let's comment this line and we'll create a new route with the account path. We'll render the account component. In this case, we'll create a new children array to specify the child routes for the standalone components and to lazy load every standalone component separately. Define the path for the login component. We'll use the load component operation to lazy load this standalone component. Import the corresponding file, select the login component, and define the second child route to lazy load the register component. Navigate to the register folder and select the component and modify the path. Save it. Open the terminal, stop the application, clear the console and set the application again. Now we have a chunk file for every child's standalone component, as you will see for the register and the login component. Navigate to the application URL, clear the loads and navigate to the default URL. The main bundle is loaded. Now navigate to the account route. No chunk file associated to the child's standalone components are loaded. Navigate now to the login standalone component, and you will see the corresponding chunk file is downloaded to this child's standalone component. Let's verify based on the code. You will see is the same chunk file. Now go to the register root. We have downloaded a new chunk file that corresponds to the register component, and as you will see is the same code. Hide the terminal. A preloading strategy allows us to download bundles in the background. It enhances user experience by reducing waiting times. So navigate to the config file, and from the providers array we'll provide the roots for this application, and we'll add a second parameter to add a preloading strategy. So call a function called with preloading, and we'll select the preloading strategy. In this case, we'll preload all the modules, select this option and save it. Pull up the terminal, and we have the same lazy chunk files. Navigate to the application URL, preload the application URL. The main bundle is downloaded first, then the lazy chunk files are downloaded as soon as possible in the background. By using this preload all modules strategy, so you can verify the codes for the chunk files. We're preloading all these bundles as soon as possible in the background. So in this demo, we learned how to apply lazy loading in Angular.